the whole discussion makes me think about how much cash there is in pharma ready to be deployed. I remember, I think it was 2 years ago from Nubar, from Flagship, a comment that there was $760 billion in thing, and I think this month I saw the figure was more like 1,000 billion now.
It's close to $1 trillion.
Close to $1 trillion.
Well, I mean, these companies are very cash generative, right? And also they can leverage. They can raise debt without any problem if they wanted to. Yeah. They're phenomenally resilient businesses, right? I mean, it's wonderful to have a drug on the market, right? For a number of years, great margins. So there's a lot of financial firepower available to these companies. What they need is top line growth. And they're going to lose, I forget the exact number, but close to 250 billion of the current revenues will go off patent in the next 4 or 5 years. Yeah. It's a huge number. Yeah.
And even you mentioned, I mean, Keytruda, now it's like 25 billion.
Keytruda, by the time it is off patent, it would be close to 40 billion. But she's an incredible.
Just 2023 was.
2023 was about 25, and I think this year is going to exceed 30 billion. No, it's an incredible drug, by the way. But to replace that, it's super hard. And incidentally, I mean, think about the problem that, Novo and Lilly will have in 4, 5, 6 years, right? I forget exactly which drug expires when, but between 2030 and 2032, both of the GLP-1s will go off patent.
They're also very good lawyers too.
Yeah, we can talk about patent extension tactics, and I'm not a huge fan, for example, of what happened to Humira, right? But that's a separate topic, which is an important topic, by the way, for the social contract. But I can tell you, both companies are already thinking, what will happen in those 4 or 5 years? And they're going to continue leverage those cash flows in 2 ways. First of all, they're going to have to increase manufacturing supply because they can't supply enough of this drug, and they will not be able to for years.
Yeah, I thought Eli Lilly is building like 6 plants or something like it.
So between Lilly and Novo, I think I've seen over 22 billion of investments in manufacturing, and this is probably an understatement. So, one thing is going to be manufacturing supply increase, and the second thing is going to be, pipeline acquisition. And I can tell you, both companies are incredibly active into that. So you will see a lot of that cash flow being redeployed, in my opinion.
Makes sense of also of what we just discussed. Like, I mean, it's a good fit for them, I guess, that most of the optionality is on the early stage clinical assets, because this means if they buy it now,
yes,
then so 4, 5, 6 years will be ready. Okay, makes sense. I mean, we had Claudia Ulbusch from Cardio on the show who sold to Novo, and it was exactly this as well. Like, they just finished their phase 1B,
right?
Or 1B2A, I think. Had great data, and then had some options, but was basically the best options to go with.
I mean, what these people can do is really blow up the size of the future clinical development, right? They don't need to take shortcuts. They can invest in multiple trials, large trials. They can look at different indications. Yeah. So I think for a certain type of indication, for certain stages of the drugs, these people are the national buyers of these businesses. Now, I still think there should be some companies that go it alone. Like, look at what happened to, obviously, Regeneron was a while ago, Vertex. So we need those champions as well, not just a big pharma. And there are a lot. I mean, I forget what the exact number is, but I think there's over more than 100 companies with market caps above 5 billion in our industry. And they are a great source of competitive tension, pipeline, optionality, partnership potential. Mm. So I think the ecosystem needs the very big guys, the not so big guys, and the small guys.
There's place. I mean, there's so much space as well. I mean, as you said, also from a benefit to patients and how it translates into economic value, there's just a huge need, and this drives.
So there's 2 things that make me. I'm glad you bring that up. First of all, I consider myself incredibly lucky. Right, this is an incredible job. You, me, smart people every day. No, it's true, and it's you and obviously the CEOs that we invest with. Of course, you. But so we are quite fortunate to do this, and we should never forget that. But looking at it from the patient perspective, which was a great comment you made, we are truly in a golden era for our industry, because there's been an absolute convergence of a lot of technologies, CRISPR, cell therapy, gene therapy, AlphaFold, computerized drug design and discovery, blah, blah, blah. And we are better at deploying this for patients. We're not only better, we are faster. When I started, I think, investing a while ago, it would take 6, 7, 8 years to go from an idea to the clinic. Now, across our portfolio, routinely, this happens in 2, 3, 3.5 years, which is an incredible improvement. Yeah. And the drugs that are being developed are truly impactful. Again, not to keep going back on the GLP-1s, but everybody talks about it, so it might be an easy thing for your audience to understand. These drugs are truly impressive in terms of the effects they're having, not just on obesity or diabetes, but a lot of other diseases. So I think this has been, really we are at the cusp of a convergence of a lot of factors that are making this industry really impactful. Now, it is still expensive to develop these drugs, of course. We still need to figure out, particularly in the US, the affordability for patients. And I do think there needs to be a proper societal debate about how insurance works in this country. Obviously, I'm European, so I shouldn't talk about this.
Interesting, actually.
Yeah, but it's a very complicated topic. That's the problem. So for the normal average public, it's super hard, and it's easy to obviously paint the drug companies as the bad people. And there's been some bad behaviors for sure. When we mentioned Humira, but I do think this industry fundamentally wants to have an impact on patients and develop good drugs, and they need to be given the opportunity to do it.
I think we could talk about
that's a very long topic as well. Absolutely.
Next week, we talked about it just for your information, also for the audience. We talked about it with Tim from AlpInvest. Actually, the episode is not released yet, but we talked quite a lot and actually exactly about this because he is quite active in the US with AlpInvest.
Absolutely.
And making a lot of returns in the US. But at the same time, as British, with quite strong French anchor as well.
Yeah, his wife is French, and he speaks perfect French. Actually.
And he speaks, so he's also like he was a bit, not schizophrenic, but a bit like on one hand, okay, we need all the benefits, but the other hand, as a patient, like actually, what we do in Europe is from a drug access is also not that bad. And I challenged him on like what I find extremely difficult, and maybe you can comment on this. Is like. Is where to, if you need to take basically a decision and what's the like close it, not ideal, but like what can be improved, because at the end, of course we need to find this innovation, of course we need to make it affordable,
right?
But just I think at the end it comes down to, I don't know what exactly. For me, I feel like it's basically on like the margin where it's the key thing. I think. Are you talking about 20% EBIT for big pharma per year, or should it be 18, or should it be 15? To me, at the end, it boils down a bit to like...
Yeah, I don't know if
you want to be awarded as well, but...
And listen, I think this could be hours, obviously. It is a super important topic, so I'll try to address it, and I'll make a couple of comments. I'll start from the point... I don't know if you want to regulate an industry that is so innovative as a utility, right? If you say, okay, you should have X% profit margins, I think they're going to...
And it's impossible to regulate.
You could. But obviously very difficult, and there's a lot of second and third order consequences that are probably even hard to predict. I will make a couple of comments maybe. One is that I think the social contract needs to be understood better by all parties involved. And the social contract is, you, society, give us a protected monopoly for this innovation that I will eventually bring to the market. So I will make the investment in that innovation. At the end of that protected monopoly, which is X years, right? Right now with the IRA is actually quite short. And by the way, there's a whole conversation about small molecule versus biologics, which is completely insane, but let's not go there. So at the end of the protected monopoly, that innovation would be available in perpetuity to society forever at much lower prices. So conceptually, it's a great social contract. There have been distortions. You mentioned companies who extend their patents for a long time. I think that is a not is a behavior that should be fought against. The other thing that's very important is that the price of drugs actually doesn't go up as much as people think. And hospitals also never go generic, right? And the inflation of hospital costs and just billing on patients is actually much worse than drugs. So that's the second comment. The third comment is that in this country in particular, obviously I lived a lot of my life in Europe. I still spend a lot of time in Europe, obviously. But in this country in particular, there's a real issue about the way healthcare insurance works. Because, take the average European country, it's very often going to be a national health insurance program, which means the national health program will count on you being a patient for your entire life. So as a result, you can do an amortization of the cost of the therapy now versus your benefit in terms of your quality of life, your length of life for some diseases for a much longer period of time. So you can amortize the cost over a longer period of time. In the US, that doesn't happen. In the US, what you have is most insurance, because US obviously is a huge country, people change insurance, and your insurance is more often than not provided by your employer.
It's more private insurance.
So insurance companies
shorter term, and
they made a calculation that you'll be with them for 2 or 3 years. So this causes all sorts of challenges, and also there's this purchase benefit managers, these PBMs, whose whole reason for existing is they will extract a discount from the cost of the drug from the drug manufacturer versus the employers. The problem is that this actually pushes them to a very high list prices, because then the discount looks bigger, the profit is bigger, versus an actual net cost, which is lower. So, there's a lot of distortions in this country. At the same time, I think it is untenable that basically the US system continues to pay for innovation for the rest of the world. That's just not fair. For the US, it's not fair. So I think some kind of equilibrium needs to be.
Ija from Unico said that it's something around, if you calculate around 3/4 or 80% of the cost of it covered by the US.
Right now, in terms of profits, this country is probably the overwhelming majority of the profits of all the pharmaceutical sales in the world are in the US. Again, the country also reaps the benefits, right? A lot of the research and innovation is here. These are high earning jobs, so they pay taxes. There's a lot of investments. I mean, look just at this city, the amount of investments. I mean, go look at the seaport, what all these pharma companies, including European pharma companies, AstraZeneca and so on, have been making as investments. So the US also benefits from that. And by the way, they will continue to benefit because this industry is actually a very strategic industry from a lot of perspective. But again, very long topic. And I think you should speak to people who are better equipped than me, but it's a fascinating topic.
Yeah, I will just mention also for the audience what you're saying about the hospital costs not going down versus technology/drugs that go down. Reminds me of Peter from Koszylski from RI Capital. And Peter
said a lot about this.
He's very into...
As he should, absolutely.
But very into one side, but I think he goes very deep. And at least it's very well researched. I would say, not biased, but very opinionated and taking one side.
We all opinionated.
That's very interesting to see.
No, and Peter, to his enormous credit, has spent a lot of time researching the topic, trying to make it available to a broader audience. He's obviously a fantastic thinker. So he should be commended for trying to explain this. It's a very difficult topic to explain because the slogan from, one side is the drug company is profiteering, right? That's the quick slogan, which is very catchy. And our answer is war and peace, 850 pages. I mean, that's obviously very difficult for the general public.